If I'm paying somebody $50 million a year, I got another 500,000 for private security. I just do, because unfortunately, and it really is our community and culture, because ain't nobody targeting Austin Reeves. All right, so we got a pretty serious fumble of the week for this week. In federal court documents released yesterday that saw some very prominent names of the Los Angeles community get hit with RICO charges, several athletes were mentioned in the indictment as well. It's alleged that in June of 2019, boxer Adrien Broner set up several NBA players in a fixed dice game, making out with over $6 million while using trick dice. Now, it's said in the aftermath of that, Big U, a notorious, reputable member of the Rolling 60s Crips, had AB roughed up for not checking in and essentially helped the NBA players get that money back for a small fee, of course. The indictment also mentioned that Shaquille O'Neal and Draymond Green were persuaded and encouraged to make donations to charities that are now being labeled criminal enterprises and fronts. Now, the charges make mentions of extortion and street protection for athletes either playing in or visiting LA. And these are all alleged charges until proven otherwise, but it does bring up a very interesting conversation about who should be charged with protecting athletes who can clearly at times be targets of the criminal underworld. From the nationwide home burglaries to needing passes to move freely in cities with an established gang culture, Samaria, what is the fix for keeping athletes safe away from their sport?
Rodney, I don't know. At this point, you got to pray for discernment, because this was really, well, you know what? Let me not say that, because that was not shocking to me with the stuff that happened with Big U. It wasn't shocking. But what I will say is, though, he was a pillar, unfortunately, in the community. Like, when you think of LA, when you think of like some of the rappers and like the athletes, he has a hand in a lot of things. And so it's kind of difficult to have discernment with somebody that everybody in the community trusts and fear, unfortunately. Yeah. So I don't really know what people could do to be more safe at that point. What do you think? I don't really know.
There are a lot of safety nets that NBA and NFL baseball teams implement for their organizations, right? But these people who are the bloodline of their sport need additional protection at times. And I think that these leagues are going to have to do a better job of figuring out what are the elements of each of these individual cities and what they have to do to ensure their players' safety, because these are major investments that these owners are making into these athletes. And so, yeah, you can have them train, you can have them eat all the right things, right? Lift weights, all of that is cool. But if I can't survive because I'm fearful of my life, right? I'm getting squeezed, then we got to do something to make sure that they're okay in that regard as well. Whether that's private security detail. If I'm paying somebody $50 million a year, I got another 500,000 for private security. I just do, you know? And so I used to work for the Wizards, man. There was a guy named Uncle Jack. Uncle Jack is the coolest, smoothest dude out in DC. And, you know, with John, he would always go out with John and make sure that John was good when he was out in the city. And I think that at most teams, my guy Flav used to do it for the Wizards and the Spurs as well. And so a lot of teams do have a guy, but usually it's just a guy. Right. And so you probably need a full detail to help your players have normal lives, because unfortunately, and it really is our community and culture, because ain't nobody targeting Austin Reeves. Like ain't nobody extorting Austin Reeves and Dalton Connect in LA. But these young black brothers who, you know, go to clubs and want to have a normal social life, like they're sitting targets. And so, you know, you got to figure out who the wolves are. And you got to figure out how to put your sheep behind the gate, because right now, especially in LA, I live out here. I see it. I've seen it firsthand. I've seen it. Trust me. It gets very tricky out here. Very tricky.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The issue comes with trust. And Big U, unfortunately, like I just said, is a figure that people trust, or they thought they could trust. They thought he could be, maybe in some instances, my muscle. But then that comes back and he's now extorting them for money, or twisting your arm to donate to charities, and he's pocketing that money himself. It's just, that's where I'm kind of like, I'm saying, I think it kind of gets tricky, because you can have all of this security around you, but if you trust the wolf, then you're still allowing them to come in. So there has to, like, I don't know how you can even discern between who's
Here's the
good and
thing.
who's bad.
I don't want to speak at length about Big U because I do live in LA and I do, move around a little bit and I don't know all the, I don't know what's true
See,
and
now
what's
you
not
got me
true.
scared.
I don't know what's true and what's not true, but I do know that there is an element of Los Angeles that exists, and I don't know if Big U is a part of it. That they believe in community tax is what we'll call it.
Okay.
And for people who are not from here and not necessarily affiliated with the culture, oftentimes if you're in LA and you're making a decent amount of money, and especially if you're young and you're black and you out here moving and you want to be able to move freely, like you do, for some people they do have to pay a tax in order to be able to do that. And that's a tax that it's unfortunate, but I also kind of understand the mentality behind it. It's just like, yo, you're here kind of pillaging our resources. You're here a part of our community. Like, your presence alone is appreciated, but what are you going to do for the impoverished community? And I think that's at the heart of a lot of this stuff. I know you might be looking at it crazy, but I've seen it
No, I'm saying,
firsthand.
is the tax going to the impoverished community, or is the tax going to?
Yeah, to us, again, I got to be mindful of what I say and how I say it, but I do
Okay.
think that
Okay.
in the hood at times there can be a little bit of trickle down economics. Like, all right, this person is paying this
Okay.
much into the pot, so now we have the ability to do this and do that. The world has lost the ability to have nuanced conversations at times, it feels like. But I will say that from bad acts, good seeds can be planted.
Okay, Rodney. So, how should athletes be moving in the cities that they work in? Like,
Yo, it's tough because they're human beings. Athletes go to the grocery store. Like, they do very normal things. Like, so I don't know how you stop them from living normal lives just because they have money. I don't want them to become hermits. That's not a fair trade-off, right? Because I'm really
right.
talented and I worked hard, I shouldn't be relegated to just staying in home all the time. I will say that social media at times can make you a bigger target depending on how you floss. I
Mhm.
think knowing how to move, like, there's a club out here that's called, it's a couple clubs out here. Obviously, I'm in LA, but like Poppy, right? So back in the day when we used to go to Poppy, like, that's where everybody went. And when you're leaving Poppy, you got to be mindful of who's following you home. But also, like, a lot of records are made public. So if you purchase a home, and let's say you purchase it in your name and you don't have a shell company,
Right.
people can very easily find out where you live. It happens all the time in LA.
Mhm.
So and I also know what your schedule is. I know when the off season is. I know when you have an away game. So it's really easy for me to time access to your residence. But you got to just be, like any of us, protective over what you have. Like, for you as a
Yeah.
woman, when you enter the world, are your are your senses up? Are you being alert and aware of everything that's going on around you? I would imagine so.
Yeah, I am. I don't know. I kind of going back to your point about giving back, or maybe this is like a charitable thing. I do feel like a lot of athletes um give back.
Mm-hmm. Not
I
a
do.
lot, but
I feel like
a
they
decent
do.
amount.
Yeah, like I do feel like a lot of them give back in ways. Obviously, like I worked in Memphis, covered the Grizzlies when John Morant was just getting there, and he's done a lot for that community. But that is a smaller market, and people are a little bit more hungry, if you know what I mean. And
Mm-hmm.
he has to have a lot of protection when he goes places, but he's done so much for them as far as giving back to kids in the community and building basketball courts and having camps and like all the things. So I guess it's just like I just don't know like how people are supposed to be able to move in a space where they are good with the people who want to the tax
Yeah. You listen. I
and just
must.
live a normal life. I don't know.
Yeah. And again, I'm gonna say it one more thing. Athletes have at times a very strong hunger for women, and a lot of times
Oh, that'll do it too. That'll do it.
that will get you got. Okay,
Mhm.
inviting random women back to the crib and y'all having a good, all of that type of stuff that was cool in college cannot fly. It cannot fly anymore. If you're going to do that, especially back to the crib, you want to get a hotel, have a time, cool. But having people that you don't know that well at your home, Can't do that, dog. But for sure, make sure you are investing in the communities, especially if you live in Utah, it don't matter. But if you're in a city full of wolves, you know, if you're in LA, if you're in Utah, I don't even think New York is like this too. I don't think New York is like that so much. If you're in Atlanta, Houston, you know, there's some cities that you just got to make sure that you're making a real impact on the community. And if you don't, the community is going to ask you, however they ask you, to make a contribution. So that's what it is. Yeah, y'all let us know your thoughts on my fumble of the week. What do you guys think is the best way for athletes to protect themselves when they are in cities that maybe have an elevated level of criminality? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section.